My name is Emma Barnard and I'm a supporter of the Royal Humane Society. I'm delighted to share a story of great bravery from 1942, which the Royal Humane Society recognised. It was in the middle of the dark years of the Second World War, and it particularly appeals to me because I have a long-standing interest in evacuee children who were sent a long way, very often, from their parents and their homes. It's almost unimaginable now. So, let's begin. 1942. Miner saves evacuee child who fell into trench. Arthur Ben Goch, miner, Craigwen, Pontypridd. Bryn Brown, colliery overman. At 3:45 on the 6th of June 1942, Wendy Williams, an evacuee, with her aunt and other children, were walking across the farmland at Llan Farm, Craigwen, Pontypridd. The child, playing, jumped into a small trench, where the ground gave way due to a colliery subsidence, and she disappeared. The police and fire services were called to the scene with ropes and ladders. The hole in the trench was examined and found to be just wide enough to allow a very thin man or a small boy to get in. The earth was soft and loose, and there was definite danger of another subsidence if the hole was tampered with. Leslie Richards, aged 14, volunteered to try and locate the child, whose cries could be heard. A rope was tied round his feet and he was lowered head first into the hole, but was unable to see anything and was hauled out again. After a few minutes he was provided with a torch and was again lowered some 7 feet, and when brought out said that he couldn't get any further. Bryn Brown then volunteered and was lowered in the same way, but he could not get very far at all and reported that the child was some way down. He suggested that an excavation should be made a few yards from the hole, and after sufficient depth had been reached, a tunnel to the position of the child should be made. This was started, and Brown took charge. He made another descent, later assisting in the final rescue. Malcolm Hazel, a young man, was then lowered head first, but failed to locate the child. He also descended later, assisting in the final rescue. Digging was being continued through the night with the aid of miners' lamps, and reaching a rock it was smashed partly with sledgehammers. The ground under the workmen then caved in, but they carried on. At about 6:30 a.m. next day, they were 18 feet down and had to exercise great care to prevent a further fall of earth. Emlyn Jones now volunteered and was tied by the feet and lowered head first. When brought out, he said that the child was some 12 foot below and near another crevice. The child's cries could fortunately still be heard. George Archer was then lowered head first, going down 9 feet. He shouted that he had got hold of the child and asked to be raised. He lifted the child about 2 feet, but owing to an overlapping piece of rock, he couldn't get her through and had to leave go. He was brought up and at once made another attempt. The same thing happened again, and Archer was brought up, completely exhausted. The child was now silent. Thomas Christopher was then lowered, and getting no reply to his shouts, it was feared that the child had fallen further down. Arthur Ben Goch and others who had just finished night shift in the colliery then arrived, and though the workings were definitely unstable by then, Ben Goch volunteered to go down. He was tied by his feet and lowered 7 feet. Then, asking for a walking stick, he chipped away some earth with it and shouted to be lowered further. He was lowered a further 5 feet. He then shouted that he had found the child, either dead or unconscious. When he grasped her, fortunately she began to cry, and taking off his vest he wrapped it round her feet and called for a pull to be given. Not being able to get the child past his body, he asked for a thin boy to be lowered. Hazel was again lowered, and after doing as Ben Goch directed, he was hauled out, absolutely exhausted. Ben Goch then gave instructions for the child to be raised slowly, but when she reached the position of his feet near a rock, it was impossible to get her head past. He then directed the men on top to lower him further. This was done, but the child was still jammed. Brown then went again down head first, and with difficulty pulled the girl clear, and she was hauled to the surface. Ben Goch, still head first down the hole, was in an extremely dangerous position. He was raised a few feet, and his body then became jammed. It was only through a very, very difficult struggle by the men on top and much wriggling by Ben Goch that he was finally raised to the surface. He was a mass of cuts, scratches and bruises, and though the pressure of the rope on his ankles had caused him agonizing pain, he stuck to his task. The child, taken to hospital, fortunately recovered. Silver medals were awarded to Arthur Ben Goch and Bryn Brown. Bronze medals were awarded to Malcolm Hazel and George Archer. Testimonials on Vellum were awarded to Leslie Richards, Emlyn Jones and Thomas Christopher. Arthur Ben Goch was also awarded the Stanhope Gold Medal for the year 1942. Thank you for listening. This story is just one of thousands. The Society is encouraging people to become one of their governors, and for just £100, in 2024 you will be invited to attend a variety of the Society's events, such as their annual General Court, where you will see awardees receive their medals and hear their amazing stories. You'll also get a 250th anniversary certificate and an invitation to a special celebration at St Paul's Cathedral in September. If you'd like to find out more about the Society and their work, do visit their website and support them however you can in their 250th year. Thank you.